Welcome to the great motor debate.
Oh, that's slipped on the easy part.
What we're here today to find out is, what is the best e-bike motor? Now, we're not focusing on specifically the bikes, but just the motors themselves. Now, to do that, we've picked 5 of the most popular motors to compare, and those are the Bosch Performance CX line, the DJI Avanox, the Shimano EP801, the Sram powertrain, and the Specialized Turbo Full Power 2.2 motor. In true Pinkbike fashion, we've established some qualitative and quantitative tests that simulate regular riding scenarios, and those would be the Boost Mode Technical Hill Climb Challenge, the Perceived Noise Trial, and the Motor Efficiency Test Loop. We'll also explore the user experience in terms of tuning, app connectivity, and the controls themselves. Now, there are a few caveats with this test. Typically, an e-bike is built around one specific motor. That means we can't use a control frame and swap out the different motors. There are also different battery sizes across these e-bikes, so we've deduced a couple ways to work out the efficiency. We did, however, use a set of control tires and wheels for all of these tests. I'll explain the rules and regulations for each one of those as we get into them. So let's get started with the most exciting one, the Technical Hill Climb Boost Mode Challenge. Okay, we're here at our difficult but possible climb. We've got our 5 bikes and we just laid down some ground rules for this. So all the bikes have the same tires, the same pressures, they're all set up for my liking, and then all the motors are gonna be used in the boost mode only. And the basis of the test is to see how unwieldy or manageable that boost mode is for each bike. Okay, so it begins with a pretty non-assuming climb. There's a couple routes. Things get a little bit steeper, and then we have this hairpin corner that sets up into a pretty tricky rock face. And then we've got a little bump up this rock over the log, up the inside of this rock face, which is pretty steep. We have another sort of staircase of routes. They're all spaced like a wheel length apart, so they're gonna be pretty tricky. And then this will be our sort of finish line. Yeah, we got a little crafty and we have our scorecards of each brand of motor. So similar to our field tests, we're gonna stack those, rank those accordingly. The first one up is the Sram. Boom. Not easy. Definitely possible, definitely difficult. Yeah, so the SRAM. At times there's definitely like a lot of overrun, so you pedal and the motor wants to keep going. But on that one, for whatever reason, it felt pretty smooth. Definitely easy to like engage, not overly powerful in the boost mode, or the rally is their highest mode. So yeah, felt pretty cruisy, honestly, even though I'm out of breath. Boost mode. Lots of little roots. Super slippery when they're cold. Oh, almost. Wow, okay, a little bit tougher. Yeah, it just seemed to wind up a lot quicker. Obviously you can tune all that stuff to your liking, but I'm gonna put that below the SRAM for now. It was pretty easy to restart on those 2 dabs though. I was surprised at that, so that pickup was good. We'll see how the rest of them rank. Yeah, this part doesn't seem quite as boosty as the Shimano was. And that part, yeah, I don't know. Tough, very tough, but possible-ish. I'm gonna put that actually at the bottom because it's very controlled, but it just didn't feel like the boost kind of turned on as quickly. And then almost maybe like hesitate to go up some of the steeper things, and then the overrun would kind of pull me when I wasn't expecting it. So like a little bit slower in and then unwieldy and fast out, which was not what I wanted for tech stuff. So
So right there for now. We're gonna try the DJI next. Holy heck, we are off to the races here. This thing is fast and out of control to a degree. Man, this thing is crazy. Oh, okay, it's a bit unwieldy. It absolutely flies. There is a lot of overrun in the turbo mode stock. Very powerful, very torquey, but made it easier in some aspects. You kind of carried more speed up, but then was a little harder to kind of let off on that. And again, all in the stock boost settings or the highest turbo modes. I'm gonna put this one, this is where it gets tough. I think I'm gonna put it, yeah, right there. The Shimano was easier to anticipate. The DJI a little bit more of a handful, but good when you were expecting it. Last up, the Bosch. Yeah, not the same speed as maybe the DJI or the Shimano even. I would say the overrun is probably the best of them all in the stock setting, easiest to manage while still putting down some good power. That was pretty clean. Last bike through that technical climb was the Bosch motor, and I'm gonna place this right up top. It was just the easiest to manage in a lot of those stop-start scenarios. Even in the turbo mode, the stock setting on that, it just delivered the right amount of power at the right time and just felt the most natural. And I think that's what you're looking for in an e-bike motor. And the Bosch delivered it. Sram, very close. Definitely felt natural, just didn't have quite the same amount of boost when you wanted it. And then the Shimano, a little bit more on-off. Again, that overrun. DJI, crazy machine. You could pretty much run that in one level down. It would be very similar to these others. But it does have benefits elsewhere. It's just in those technical scenarios. And then 5th place, not necessarily last place because it is still quite a good motor, but the Specialized Turbo, just in that stock setting, I was looking for a little bit more power early on and a little less overrun, especially for those technical scenarios. So yeah, that's kind of how those 5 motors rank today. Another small test we're gonna do in this e-bike motor shootout is how annoying is the sound while climbing. So we're gonna put all the bikes in boost mode. They're all gonna be in the same gear, and we're just gonna rally up this hill. And based on how annoying the sound is, we're gonna rank those individually. Okay, so super high cadence. While testing this bike, it was maybe one of the loudest. All right. So Shimano, thank you, sir. I guess, well, we don't have anywhere else to put this but 1st place right now, so we shall stack it accordingly. Let's put them just over here, behind this little stump. Boom, there we go. Shimano in 1st. Let's see how the Sram one goes. All right, so this one's more of like a loud hum, I would say. The Shimano's a little bit whinier. It's a lower tone. Honestly, pretty easy to live with. Doesn't really bother me. Tonality, good score. I'm gonna put that above the Shimano. It's not loud. It's a little quieter, like more of a hum. More of a hum than a whine. So boom, let's see how the other 3 go. Okay. I mean, it is made by Brose. They also make the Sram motor, but slightly different. I'm gonna put it in between these 2. I still think the Sram was a little quieter. It just didn't get quite up to the same RPM or just like emit the same noise. Just seemed to like hum a little bit quieter. Similar, very similar for sure. Okay, next one, DJI. Crazy. My legs are going so fast. It is a little whiny. DJI uses gears. Some of the other bikes use a belt. Holy hell, the torque on this thing. Yeah. DJI, another one in the bank. I'm gonna put this just above the Shimano. It probably emits the same level of noise, like decibel wise, but it's more of a hum, it's less of a whine. It's not as consistent as the other two, so that's why it goes below. Okay, so we're going third gear. High RPMs. More of a whine than a hum. Not quite as erratic as the Shimano or the Specialized, but not as quiet as the Specialized either. This one's a little tough. Overall noise level, I would say close to the DJI. All right, last one to go into the perceived noise and annoyance test. The Bosch. Whoa. I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put this right in the middle. I think that the overall noise is probably closest to the DJI. It's in between like a hum and a whine. Not as quiet as these two, but more consistent than the Shimano as well. So yeah, that's where I'd put that one, right in the middle.
Now we're on to the motor efficiency test loop. As mentioned, each bike uses a different motor and battery size. So instead of draining each battery fully, we measured the percentage used over that specific vertical. The test loop had a vertical gain of 484 meters, and that consisted of a paved commute to a mellow single tractor climb, followed by a steep gravel road, and then onto a descent with basically no pedaling in between, followed by the return home. So how did they all fare? Well, number 5 is the DJI Avinox at 0.645 watt hours per meter. And I know it doesn't matter for this test, it's not relevant, but it was definitely the fastest overall test loop. The turbo or boost mode on this thing is absolutely insane. If you're riding on a trail with others, it's not very useful. It's extremely fast. So you'll probably end up using the trail mode, and that is a lot more efficient. Now, I know this is a hot bike that you want to know more about. We'll have a full review coming where we'll talk about all the technical details of the frame and get into the total range of the battery. Number 4, the Shimano EP801 motor at 0.621 watt hours per meter. And based on the propane stress review, this is about where I expected the Shimano motor to land. I did think there were going to be more efficient motors out there, so on to the next one. Number 3, the Sram powertrain at 0.586 watt hours per meter. Not bad, but not great, right in the middle. Now, this motor is also manufactured by Bosch, and I expected to be a little bit closer to that Specialized turbo motor. And then there were just 2. Number 2, the Specialized turbo at 0.492 watt hours per meter. And that means the winner of our motor efficiency test loop is number 1, the Bosch Performance CX line at 0.490 watt hours per meter. Barely pipping that Specialized turbo motor. Now, just to clarify a little more on motor efficiency, it depends on a number of factors, but we tried to control as many of those variables as we could. So we used the same tires, and the test was conducted on the same day in the same conditions, and tried to keep that cadence to a very similar power output. As we mentioned, results may vary for you depending on conditions and how you have the motor set up. So without further ado, we're going to get into apps, tuning, and what it's like to live with each one of these motors. In this livability chapter, we're going to talk a little bit about the controls, the apps, as well as the standout features of each one of these motors. We're not going to get into the charging aspect of each one of these motors because that depends on a few things. It's more so up to the bike manufacturer where they place that charging port, which can depend on the type of frame layout as well as the battery size. The Bosch Performance CX line motor can have a built-in top tube LED display to show the battery percentage, change the mode, as well as powering the bike on and off. Now, there are 2 different remotes that you can pair with this. There is the mini remote, which is wireless and has simple functions like changing the power up and down. There is also the wired kiosk remote with a ton of buttons, but it does have a bunch of controls as well. Bosch uses their Flow e-bike app, and that's the only way you can see the actual battery percentage left. Otherwise, you have to rely on the LED bars illuminated on the top tube display. Another slightly annoying thing about the Flow app is that you can't toggle between paired bikes. If you have two Bosch bikes, you have to disconnect one before you can connect the other, and it just makes things a little bit slower. DJI is well known for their drones, so when they built this Avanox motor and display, it's no surprise that it's very easy to use. The built-in top tube display is also a touch screen, which makes it extremely easy to operate on the fly. Both the functions displayed in the screen and on the app are extremely easy to use and navigate. All of the info is very neatly laid out and customizable to your own preferences. A few of these motors have locking functions which are controlled via the app. Both DJI and Specialized offer that for free, but with the Bosch performance motor, you'll need a separate subscription to take advantage of that function. Shimano's EP801 motor has two apps that you can pair with. The first one is the eTube, which is more of a controlling feature, and then the eTube Ride, which is more of a tracking feature. Shimano takes more of a Windows operating style approach when it comes to their apps. They're not quite as user-friendly, but you can still do all of the tuning necessary. Both the remote and the display are mounted to the handlebars. They're not reliant on the bike. So if you're a Shimano enthusiast, you're gonna get the same experience no matter what type of bike you're riding. The rubber-coated buttons are easy to reach and an improvement from the previous remote, but they still don't have the battery percentage displayed on the screen. You'll have to go into the app for that. Sram's powertrain is a pretty interesting e-bike motor system. It only has two modes, rally or range. And so if you want to descend with the motor off, you need to completely shut down the unit. Now this is all part of SRAM's AXS ecosystem. The powertrain system connects to the SRAM AXS app, just like their other wireless components. And it's pretty easy to go in there and change all the levels as needed. Specialized Turbo Full Power 2.2 motor is their latest and greatest iteration. It's obviously only available on Specialized bikes. It uses an LCD screen built into the top tube, and with the wired remote on the handlebars, you can toggle through different screens. The app is quite easy to navigate, and when you're in there, you can change the power levels as needed. You can also track your rides as well as operate that locking motor function. Okay, so what is the final verdict on the experience of riding all of these different motors? Number 5, I would put the Shimano EP801. I just felt like it was a little bit noisy. Number 4 would be the SRAM powertrain, and one of the main reasons this scores a little bit lower is because you can't turn the motor off while you're riding via the remote. You have to stop and press the button on the top tube, and that's just a little bit more of a hassle, especially if you're a descending focused rider. And this is where it starts to get tight. Number 3, I would put the Specialized Turbo. It's a great user experience. It's a really quiet motor. It's easy to operate the app, but it's only available on the Specialized bikes. Number 2 would be the DJI Avanox motor. It's extremely fast. It's very powerful and torquey, but it's still delivered in a very usable way in technical scenarios. Unlike any of the other bikes here, it has that LCD touchscreen, which just enhances the user experience of the bike. The one small downside was that the motor was a little bit whinier compared to the others here on test. And that just leaves the Bosch Performance CX line in the top spot. And that's just a culmination of the efficiency of the motor, the quiet output, as well as the very deliverable power in that boost mode. Really, the only hindrance to the Bosch are some of the small setbacks in the app, but given the overall user experience, those are easy to overlook. And that is a wrap on our big e-bike motor shootout. Jump in the comments and let us know what your experience has been with any one of these motors and which one you would pick if you were going to build an e-bike.